Dialect um, Network. So, welcome to the launch of We'll Meet You There, which is the latest pamphlet from Dialect Press. And in case it has passed your notice, it's actually the eve of the spring equinox today. And that's a time in the year when just for a moment, day is equal to night. So it's this kind of brief hinge between dark and light and a kind of a pause in the ever turning world. So it seems like a very appropriate moment to be launching a book like We'll Meet You There. This Sabbath is a threshold, and thresholds are something that have always mattered very much to humans. They ask us to pause, to notice, and to ask us to choose how we step forward from here. This is spring equinox, or otherwise known as Ostara, and it's been understood as a time of rebirth and return and renewal, and not necessarily as a very sudden sort of transformation, but a kind of slow unfurling and a time to try again, to begin again. And tonight we're going to honour that invitation with this beautiful new pamphlet. We're going to honour small, brave beginnings and the stories that we're shedding, the seeds we're planting, and the light that is lengthening around us, all of which are themes that we find in this wonderful son of a book. I know many of you have already bought this book. I'm afraid you can't see it very well because I've got a blurred background, but it is, yay, there we go, lots of them being held up. But it's a beautiful, bright, sunny daffodil, egg
Oh,
yolk, sunshine, yellow. So we'll meet you there is by a trio of poets, Ilse Pedler, Hilary Watson, and Alice Willitts. And it's inspired by this notion of thrutopia, a narrative that kind of doesn't succumb to crippling or paralyzing horror of dystopia or a kind of, unicorn fantasy of utopia, but instead, thrutopias kind of chart a viable path between the two, a kind of route from where we are now to where we need to be moving through this moment of climate crisis. So the pamphlet is urgent, but it's also very restorative. It's deeply attentive to the world in its precarity and insistent on the possibility of healing. Weaving the poems of three very talented poets together, the polyphony of the collaboration is something that is really striking, which I think you'll find when you hear them read. So each voice, while it's very distinct, it kind of contributes to a very layered experience that resists singularity in favour of a kind of more dynamic and inclusive form of witness. So before we allow these poems to speak for themselves and these poets, I'd like to introduce the poets who will then begin their reading. So Ilse Pedler lives in Cumbria and works part-time as a veterinary surgeon. Her first collection, Auscultation, I hope I pronounced that correctly, Ilse, was published in 2021 by Seren. She's an experienced workshop leader and is the poet in residence at the Sidmouth Folk Festival, an enviable residency, Ilse. Hilary Watson lives in Cardiff. She graduated from the University of Warwick writing programme and she was a Jerwood Arvon mentee. Her first collection, Menagerie Street, is forthcoming from Seren later this year in July 2026. And then Alice Willitts is a poet and plantswoman from the Fens with a stubborn optimism about the future. She believes in putting hope into action, co-launching Bending the Arc, co-creating dirt plantable poetry, more on that later, and writing Kiss My Earth, which came out with Blue Diode last year. All three are co-editors of Bending the Arc, which is on Substack. And it's a magazine of Thrutopian writing. And over now to you, dear Alice, and I'll just begin the screen share.
thank you so much. Um, uh, would you like people to mute before we get going, or yeah? So, because there are quite a few who are not on mute at the moment. Is that something you can take care of, Dialect?
Yes, we'll sort it out, Alice.
Okay, lovely, brilliant. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. I'm just going to dive straight in. The call, longing, but you wouldn't know what it's like to wait by an old phone box for the call, to wait for the call, to wait and wait for it and never give up and never know why it didn't ring for you. And that's what it's like to lose hope. Daisies dying, crisp packet dead, and all the ruffled acres too busy burying birds to rouse you. Then ring, ring. Wake up, sleepyhead. Bend your whacked out headspace round the receiver. Pick up, pick up. This is the call. Hello? Your voice, cool as reasonable toffee, says, sorry, sorry, but I'm in the future and you should come. You'll love it. I open my mouth to say, I've missed you, but my words are Bakelite, tangled cable, cracked static, subterranean break. You flow down the line, full of coasts I can't imagine, fill up all my dry mouth with a cacophony of insect song, charming the cities where we've given half to nature, just like Mary said we should. We've really done it. And nature's glad we're here. We live inside out, never a voice too lonely in the tramlines of nature's funk. Streets come up soil green, shag pile comfort. Clove-scented flowers airdrop bus passes. City mapper pings pheromones in scents of tree talk. We're all food forest commuters now. We listen to my chest, wheeze like lapping waves as you wait for me to speak. Thunder breaking in my head, a cloud for every prayer bursting, rolling away. I don't say, but how will I get there now? I say, I believe you. I don't say, but the leaders won't change. I say, we are the change. And I don't say, will you forgive me when I get there? Is it too late? I say, I'm coming. Wait for me. I'm on my way.
How to retrofit a city. Let me tell you what's possible. How to drench a city in green. Ride an urban flood of possibility. How to light a green fuse. Wrap tower blocks in green scaffolding, resilient in leaf and stemmed strength. See homeworkers open windows, breathe. Watch birds nest in branches, hatch eggs. From 40th floors, see canopies of trees flow like green rivers through streets, while tourists sit at cafes under wisteria tunnels, stroll in the breeze of cherry blossom walkways. On building sites, lay straw bales like golden bricks. Carve and plaster smooth, pour hempcrete like concrete into blocks and walls. Leave new footprints on the years ahead. Clear-story windows, skylights, light shelves, buildings turn their faces to the sun like sunflowers. In city squares, children splash in water sprays. An office worker on the edge of a fountain dips bare feet. Shoppers tune in to the burble of daylighted rivers. Watch insects dip and sip from low waterfalls. On car-free roads, hopscotch squares and skipping ropes. Joggers stretch on benches. Rush hour is the sound of 1,000 bicycles, their bells chiming the journey home. In the evening, young ones are sent up to rooftop allotments to pick salad for tea, come down with dirt on their hands and mouths sticky with strawberries. And outside the city, They're catching fog with nets, trapping saturated air like spiders, watching it drip and channel into collecting chambers. Know that harvest will be possible this year.
Thank you so much, Alice and Ilse, really wonderful poems. So some of the work that we've been doing during this sort of journey that we've been on sort of for the last year and a half is looking at stories, looking at myths, and inventing new stories that we can take into this very different sort of version of the future. So throughout the collection, there are a few constellation poems, and I'm going to read the first now. This is the Camel Head constellation, Camelus Capitis. Camel walked 400 days and 400 nights, searching as the deserts grew. Sand blew over each oasis, each waterhole, each river he'd known so well. One day, Camel, close to death, found the tallest dune and threw his head back in despair, thrust his skull into the stars. His hind legs rooted to the ground, for surely he could quench his thirst, not on this earth, but by leaving it behind, with its growing sands and drying pools, its storming clouds and rising seas. Camel, with his head bent back, saw not the stars, not water on another planet, nor wishy-washy comet, nor oasis in the black expanse, but the cool quench of abundance on the blue planet, where water flowed and froze and thawed, where storms hurled and raged and falls gushed fury into rock, where water below the ground pooled and slowed as the soils held, with roots and mangroves, with forests returning where they had previously been destroyed. This odd haven of water flow that filled the tributaries, fed streams and rivers and oceans. Standing tall each night and looking at the whole, head tilted back, Camel saw what had been there the whole time, a cup from home, brimming with quenching hope. And Camel stayed alive.
Thanks, Hilary. I love that we in our inventiveness, in our play of inventive new constellations, and we had a really great time pushing ourselves with trying different forms and inventing new forms in poetry. And I'd like to read the next one, is one of those kind of inventions, and it's a poem that you can see on the page has a sort of fracture line down it, and there's a type of poem called a golden shovel where a quote from another poem forms the lines all the way down the right hand side of the page, and we thought that we would take a quote from an environmentalist or an activist and make it and make the same thing. But we also, so as a healer, as a veterinary surgeon and a healer, I was interested in how we can heal this earth of ours that's so desperately in need. And so this was one of the poems that came out of that sort of desire to heal and the inventiveness of the form. So this is There Will Always Be Those That Heal. Hippocrates swore by his gods, and across the centuries physicians swore oaths. What physicians of the earth will there be now to medicine the high, burning, flooded and displaced? Bruised oceans and fractured winds will be our patients, not us only. I was told that to doctor is a calling, was told that to doctor is healing, is guardian. When did guardian become the means to such failure? I must allow new physicians to restore, look to new knowledge, other, bacteria, fungi, the adaptation to deal with our waste, heal our sick. For the future, I must relearn to heal, relearn to answer the need for a new doctoring, a new health. And I was interested in looking at how other organisms could do the healing. And so the next one is remedies for the earth 1. Let me offer you fungi, a whole kingdom beneath our feet, hyphae nosing their way through our detritus, healing our dirt and healing us if we would know them. Charred burrs of chaga for the dark interiors of Sitka spruce. Let them reveal their orange hearts, light beacons for the way ahead. Allow birdsong back in. Turkey tail for the watery places, the lakes, becks, bogs, the saturated and submerged. Let it dispel the damp, transform the low and stagnant tarns. Honey fungus to soothe the wind that swells and blusters around yards, through barns, the young stock wide-eyed and snorting. See how it dispels their floating fear. Lion's mane for the time of burning. Desiccated bracken that crackles in electric shocks across the fell. Watch it calm the sparks, nurture green in the aftermath of fire. Cordyceps, the great connector, threading beneath our feet from mountains to sea, measuring the pulse, augmenting the chi of place, reminding us of the strength in collective. And Ganoderma, king of fungi, its fruiting bodies embroidered on the gowns of emperors, gives back to earth its immortality, teaches us happiness, the way of light.
Yeah. Community, being more than just a human community, is something that we're learning beyond activist circles now. This next poem, for me, harks to that activist slogan of with rage and love, which we've all been greeting each other with for a long time now. That sort of rallying cry. Because cœur is the heart and rage is our fierce love for this planet. So this poem, you'll see, is presented in a series of sort of little gobbets as the poem wrestles with the responsibility that it needs to take, both individually and then in community. And it goes from trying to wriggle away, maybe, or to find the ways to be courageous, the kind of bravery that we need right now. And it ends in community and action. To change what's yours to change. Courage comes as a kind of emergent oxygen. Fill your lungs, your throat, sprout ferny tongues to peak over legacy's lips, leaves to loll over the swollen gums of policy, drip, drop, drip water onto the slope of your clear-cut chest. And marvellously, importantly, waterfall will remember your chin. Courage in aching hearts, alive in the cooling shade of your neck. Courage gathering power with each roaring sheet of water. Those who dare dare to speak out, for who cannot? Courage, hiding in plain sight, like that ghost year after collapse, when you relearn speech, and out of your mouth comes such a groan it opens you, like you've queued a lifetime in a roomful of teeth to see the last sunset. Courage, which was Chaucer's word for the ordinary heart, because he lived in a time too. Heart, rage beyond nature, who hasn't been dishonest, not been cawing on the sly. Courage is with the mixed crop people who sprout what keeps. Dignity, standing shoulder to shoulder in purpose, in abundance. And now, here's dinner time. Tip cumin seeds into your hand. Release them into the bubbling pan. One grain will stick to your palm. Trace its crescent across your skin with your thumb. Courage is taking the first bite. The first bite is adding your one grain of disobedience to the feast.
Thanks, Alice. Some of our starting points for these poems were using sort of what if questions. So the poem that I'll read now starts with a question: what if the streets were closed for children to play? And there are a few words in Cymraeg, the Welsh language, in the poem, so I'll just tell you what those are. So paned is a cuppa, so a cup of tea is offered, and there's also a Welsh nursery rhyme, saucepan fach y berw ar y tân, which is a small saucepan boiling on the fire. Temporary play street order. They do play then, kids on Arabella Street, catching snowflakes and laughing round cars, chasing from pavements into the road, since one day someone said enough, halted traffic. They do play then, kids on Arabella Street, grandmother's footsteps and 1, 2, buckle my shoe, catching snowflakes and laughing round cars, kicking balls and spinning, chalking tarmac, chasing from pavements into the road. The street strewn with skipping ropes and scooters, since one day someone said enough, halted traffic. And yes, tears and scraped knees and plaster kisses. They do play then, kids on Arabella Street. Teach grown-ups a thing or two about introducing yourself. Grandmother's footsteps and 1, 2, buckle my shoe. Sometimes let adults join a hula hoop challenge. How catching snowflakes and laughing round cars makes the streets look different. Not ferried door to door, kicking balls and spinning, chalking tarmac, big bright letters and hopscotch squares, chasing from pavements into the road. Summer stretches out across Arabella Street. The streets strewn with skipping ropes and scooters. Roads freed up for flying lessons on wheels, since one day someone said enough, halted traffic. Neighbours say, remember back when we were young? And yes, tears and scraped knees and plaster kisses. Who knew so many little and big kids together? They do play then, kids on Arabella Street, sing Saucepan fach y berw ar y tân, deck chair chats, teach grown-ups a thing or two about introducing yourself, about offering a paned, a cup of tea, across the fence, happy to join grandmother's footsteps and 1, 2, buckle my shoe, 3, 4, knock at the door, 5, 6, pick up sticks. Sometimes let adults join. A hula hoop challenge. How many butterflies can you find? A cloak of winter light. Kids catching snowflakes and laughing round cars. Wrapped up warm in wool, not wanting to go in. It makes the street look different. not ferried door to door, not stuck inside, not knowing no one's name till a tire's slashed, kicking balls and spinning, chalking tarmac. Kids transform a place, don't they? Gift big bright letters in hopscotch squares. These mementos, a reminder of playtime, of chasing from pavements into the road. And I think we're opening up for a Q&A at this point. So I think over to Emma.
Hi everyone, my name's Emma Kernahan. I'm Juliet's partner in crime at Dialect, and I am going to invite everybody to put up their hand or to leave a message in the chat if they have a question for the authors. If you're not sure how to put up your hand, you can go to the React button, which should be at the bottom of your panel. And if you click on that, there are lots of options, including one that says raise hand, with a little hand like that. So put up your hand. Or please do leave a message in the chat and I will keep monitoring both of those at the same time. Do a bit of multitasking. Hopefully I can see all of you. So I saw a raised hand. Oh my goodness, so many people in the meeting. I'm going to be scanning and scanning. Just bear with me 1 second. And
I think it was Elizabeth, Emma.
Elizabeth, thank you, Juliet. Elizabeth, go ahead.
I was just practicing, but yes, thank you to the wonderful poets and thank you to Dialect Collective for publishing The Sunshine Volume of Hope. It's been a joy to hear everybody. And since I'm speaking, I might throw a question into the air. How has this, so working together on this collection, transformed your writing process more generally? Has it, and has it transformed the way you read other poems?
Yeah, I think
who's that question for? Sorry, Elizabeth, is that for anyone in particular first? Well, who was just speaking? Sorry, I interrupted. Was that Alice?
It was
Ilse.
me. Shall I start off and then the others will join in? I know. I think the collaboration has been it's been brilliant, and it's really it's been wonderful in that it's pushed all of us into writing slightly differently. And I know probably Alice and Hilary will tell you about their experiences, but it's pushed us in different ways. I know Alice resisted form quite a bit, and I'm quite a fan of writing in forms. But then I needed to become less didactic, and one of the issues with writing about the climate crisis is some poems tend to be a bit, well, you must do this and we must do this, and that often tends to switch people off. So we were trying to take people with us rather than to sort of tell people what to do, because obviously it's more effective to generate enthusiasm. So I think for me it's changed a little bit, changed the way I write a little bit. It's also pushed me into trying different forms, and breaking forms as well, to make something a little bit more interesting or have more impact, I think. So yeah, that's me.
Shall I come in, Alice?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and I'll follow you.
Yeah, perfect. So if you've read Ilse's Sarin collection, you'll know that she is an absolute pro at form. Yeah, it's been sort of an honor to be amongst somebody who is a formalist and actually sort of pick up the joy of that. So yeah, when we started talking about this work, we were talking about what forms could work, and very early on we decided that we could invent new forms, and once one of us had invented a new form, then it was very exciting to then pick up the other person's new form. So Ilse and I would be sort of trading forms quite early on, and Alice as well has created new forms. It's been really exciting, a really great way of yeah, pushing our writing as well, and really entering into that play. And there's the joy is really important in the way that we've approached the subject as well, and the playfulness of the writing process, I think, has been part of that as well.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. I think one of the ways that has been most significant in the change for me came before even writing any of the poems, which was to actually believe that there could be a livable, thriving future on Earth. And this is something that it can be very difficult to do at the moment. We are bombarded with doom. The statistics are terrifying. The scientists are worried it's a terrifying situation. And it's seemingly being made worse every day instead of us heading in the direction that we want to be going in. So never have I felt that this work was more important and more needed and more urgent and more vital. We need the courage to stand up, to speak out. And I think art does that for me. It gives me the courage, gives me community and a sense that I can trust my inner voice and everything I know and experience in the world around me day to day, which is about people being extraordinarily kind to each other, ordinarily kind to one another, thinking about not only themselves but the planet. So I think this is what underpins the work that we're doing. This is what Thrutopia is. It's looking the difficulty right in the eye, and at the same time, not giving our oxygen and our energy to the people who are determined to make us succumb to that kind of future. And it's a really difficult balance. And I think the tensile strength, if you like, that we hold on to as Thrutopians is convincing ourselves. Because once you've convinced yourself that there can be these futures, and the examples of the future are all around us, once you start looking, once you become a detective in the world, the future that we need and want is already here. We're not lacking. It's here in abundance. But we need to point at it. And I think that what poetry does is it brings our attention to it. And so that's been really the transformative part for me in my work was first believe, and then bring my bravery to speak that into the world, to put down my protective cynicism, to be possibly thought of as foolish and naive and all of those things. And that's the courage, because we don't really want to bring our broken hearts into the public in that way. And then say, actually, even in our brokenness, we will come together and we are going to make this work. And that's the big thing for me.
Thank you so much to everyone for those answers to that great question. I have one more question that I think we've got time for before we return to the readings from Al. Al, I saw you, and now you've disappeared. Are you still with us? Oh, gone. Oh, I think we've lost Al and his question. So I'm very quickly, before we return, I'm going to just read out some of the comments here. Wonderful poems, beautiful poems, and I really love how you don't just paint a utopia without also recognizing the parlous state we are in. And oh, I have a question from Helen. Let's just put her hand up.
Yeah, thank you. This reading is just really, I feel full and of a lot of things. So thank you. I wanted to ask you about the book because I've got my book already. And, I was reading inside, it says made with renewable energy and printed on certified sustainable recycled paper. So I was just going to ask a quick question about, like, you're doing what you're saying on the tin as well, which is really quite something. And I'm just wondering, was that difficult? Would all publishers be able to do this if they put their mind to it?
Yeah. Bluntly, yes. But you know, you have to make the choices. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just to put it even more bluntly, the costs are higher, but it's completely, absolutely doable. But yes.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
of course, the costs aren't higher if we're all doing it. I mean,
Yeah.
duh.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm sure everyone who has a copy of the book will agree that the actual object is a beautiful, beautiful thing. So it's well worth the, additional cost and the effort to make it thus. So
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you so much for those questions. And I'm just going to round off the Q&A with the last comment I've got here, which just says, "Love the hope!" exclamation mark. And on that note, I'm going to hand back to our readers, to our authors, for the final reading section.
wonderful. Thank you so much. I'll just wait for the screen share to load as well. I think Alice perhaps has put it quite nicely in her comments there, but a lot of this work is sort of preparing yourself to accept the future, accept the care that we need to take forward, and also very, very specifically not assuming that humans will be wiped out, not assuming the planet is better off without us. So I think in the next few poems, hopefully you'll see these things coming out to the theme of care particularly. This poem is called Heron Time. Slow time to the minnows fidget. The herons stock still stare. The weak, cumulus clouds reflecting on the surface. The river pulses with it. Algae clings to bank mud. Bottle tops and wrappers circle stream cyclones. Heron lifts a leg, places a foot to silt. Lean closer. Minnows fidget through the water where algae clings to mud banks strewn with plastic. Heron lowers, fidgets, algae, bottle tops. Closer still. Cyclic, swirling, beak snap, fish swallows, mine snaps back. Shallow, shadowed, lured to reconsider the weakness of cumulus, the clagging mud. Two river rats cross effortlessly into the future. Hold two hands up to clouds, reflecting bottle tops, wrappers, snapping beaks, mycelium webbing, from soles and soil to this dirt, this mud, this algae. Who are you to stand at a bank and hope for something else? You're exactly where you're supposed to be, as though circled on a map. Isn't that what Joe always says? That you can only travel as far as the heart will go? You have always been welcome. You belong here in Heron Time. Healing, calm, resurgence, resurrect. There's a place for you here and in that thriving future. Open yourself to its manifest. Mending the cobbled path is measuring the weight of acceptance, is putting the ache of foreboding joy to bed. Prepare for the future you want to bring to light.
Beautiful, thanks, Hilary. And the next one is one of these unusual forms. I hope we can get it all on the page. And this is another of the remedies poem, of the healing poem. And I see Pat, my homeopath from Canada, There is a homeopathy one, Pat, as well. And so a lot of the knowledge that we have, a lot of the is here. It's here in plants and fungi and all around us. And my deep belief is that we need to listen to that. We need to use these things. We need to look at a holistic view of the world. Try and get away from our selfishness, and so this remedy poem is about herbs, and it puts herbs at the center, and it's also playful in that you can read it from in different directions if you want as well. So this is Remedies for the Earth 2. Let me bring you wholeness, leaves, stem, root, fruit. Cherish what they bring together. You cannot patent herbs. Echinacea, purple coneflower, sturdy taproot reaching the deepest, sucking the sepsis out. Symphytum, boneset, knit bone, knit back, mends the fractured, broken. Calendula, marigold, polygold, marybud, a calendar for the year, wash the bleeding gums, the soreness of eyes. Centella, pennywort, ointments, the burns, the sores, smooths the rigid and hardened scars. Silymarin, holy thistle, veins white with Mary's milk, drink liver deep, quench the thirsting.
Thank you, Ilse. The next poem is a very short spell aimed to sort of break away from the kind of despair narratives that we don't need humans, that humans aren't part of the future. So this is called Humans Are Not Parasites. Gaia put in a shift, converted raw sunlight to human light, including you, darling.
Defeathering. To talk about a livable future, we'll need to talk about intimacy. Skin to skin, the pleasure you wrap around your present bones. Some birds' feathers are translucent, oily rainbows when you hold them up to the sun. The sun that would see you as a rainbow feather. Only we don't hold ourselves up to the sun anymore. I want bells of the living, ringing soil among other things, ringing a clear way through to the future. There must be many ways to get there from here. I know none of them, but I want to go. Cross waters and stay, make a life there by the sea. Fish in clear, bathe in clean, stroke rippled skin. Water is sometimes my grown sons. Water is sometimes my mother. Water is our pleasure yet, so please ask it when you pass, how are you today? The reply, sea feathering with a second kind of politeness, will say, fine. We know what fine means. We say it every day. Fine, I'm fine. Water means I'm surviving. And you?
Thanks, Alice. So the next couple of poems are examples of positive actions. So a lot of our reading and studying that we did around looking at thrutopia and what it means is looking at examples of positive action. And as Alice was saying earlier, these are all around us in the retrofit, the city poem. All of the things I wrote in that are already there in urban design and net carbon architecture and so on. And so we were looking at positive actions, and up here in the Lake District, there's a lovely valley called the Haweswater Valley, and and it's just been rewilded. And there's a big story, people from Cumbria will know this, but there's a huge story around Haweswater Valley. It was there was a little lake there, and in the 1930s it was flooded to create the Haweswater Reservoir, and the village of Mardale Green was submerged under the water, and the whole community was uprooted and had to move somewhere else. And I wrote a poem about that, about the destruction of the valley and the village. And one of the things we were exploring was how can new hope and regeneration come out of destruction? And these next couple of poems are positive examples of that. And this one is Haweswater Rewilded. And the valley was, the RSPB in conjunction with the Water Authority actually did a huge rewilding project. And it's absolutely beautiful. The valley now, lots of tree planting, wiggling becks and all sorts of other things as well. So and again, I played with form with this one, and the shape in the blank space in the middle of the poem is actually the shape of Haweswater Reservoir. So this is Haweswater Rewilded. I, the damned valley, speak of the healing. On my commons, the pressing, hooves reduced, those of dark curls and bands of white chewing down bracken, coarse grass. Those graceful of the long manes churning up crust, releasing the trapped from their deep sleep, feeding them with their dung. And I, wild, become scrubbier, wetter, welcoming alder, birch, welcoming spotted orchid, devil's bit scabious. And higher beneath mountain tips, I am yellow, purple, pink, and white. Slopes strewn with saxifrage, lady's mantle, gullies welcoming lime green stars of butterwort, red tentacled sundews, shy spikes of pyramidal bugle. And one by one they return, the tiny ticklings, the lullabies of hums, orange tips, green hair streaks, blue throats singing in downy willow, and running through the heart of me, Swindale, re-meandered in riffles, pools, and shallows, burbling to frothy spires of angelica, meadowsweet. And in my lower meadows, salmon scenting their way home, freed from the burn of nitrogen. Rowaning saplings, oak and hazel send down roots to break and crumble, allow my earth to breathe. Welcome, tiny creepings, springtails, millipedes, worms to thread the goodness through. Seeds break open, push towards the light. Cranesbill, bistort, burnet, spotted orchid, yellow orbs of globe flower, spotted orchid, bedstraw foaming, towers of melancholy thistle, spotted orchid. And again, the kindlings come to stroke and sip, complete the cycle. Feathered chorus of yellowhammers, ouzels ringing, linnets, goldfinches, meadowing on seeds. High, high, peregrines and red kites, inspect my diverse wilding. Streams, bogs, boulders, rocky knolls, screes and slopes. The eagle returns.
So something that Ilse mentioned in that introduction was that we looked at actions that are happening currently. And one of the things about working with material that's so current is that the next poem is about a campaign led by particularly for the UK government to make these changes in England and Wales by Hannah Bourne Taylor. Her campaign's called Feather Speech. But one of the things about this work is that actually the call for the campaign has just passed in Scotland. And we hope that the rest of the UK will follow. So the next three poems are about this theme. Feather Speech. First, bird woman raised finches in her hair. Her waist-length strands perfect for twined nests, outstretched palms and collarbone primed for perching. Watching. When Finch was ready to rejoin the flock, she flew home, over the Sahara, Gibraltar, France, the Channel, home as fewer and fewer scything swifts screamed the summer. Birdwoman walked naked through the streets, fear inked in feathers scrawled across her skin, swifts in flight to scream her feather speech. How else would a nobody in birdwoman form raise 100,000 names needed for debate? Our duty of care is to these wild neighbours, their fate resting in dilapidated corridors of power. Her call for bird bricks for all new houses. Build, 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 swifts, sparrows, starlings, build, 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 nuthatch, coltit, wren, build, build, build. They did not listen behind the door of number 10. But feather speech had started to be sung. Eventually, everything gives. Birdwoman would not stop screaming in the summers. The swifts have come home to us. Back to pristine walls and boarded holes they'd nested every brood in every summer. And brick by swift brick, birdwoman's legislation passed to law. Shaking with hope instead of desperation, her hands, where once finches lived, pressed indents into rows of house bricks, her speech feathered in the language of swifts towards these precious pockets of necessity, feather-lined and fledgling. The rising count of swifts in the skyline tilts sharply towards ascent. Birdwoman screeches out, the swifts, their home, brick by brick by brick. Ampersand. Kids pull down swift face masks, papier-mâché swifts on sticks, swift shadow puppets. Streets hush as the bird bulletins at the end of radio news announce sightings of returnings in Tunbridge, Wareham, Stoke. Brick by swift brick, the birds that bring with them British summer. Look there, shh, listen, there's one. Start to swoop and dart and find their homes as they left them. What must it feel like to stop after 9 months of constant flight? And yes, some bird bricks are empty, and yes, some house broods of sparrows, tits, wrens, and brick by swift brick, they refill the sky, shrieking how they've always shrieked above these streets of crevices and cracks. This is another constellation poem. Bird woman, constellation Avis Femina. Swifts fly to the moon and back 4 times a lifetime. Understand, flesh, paint, feathers could never lift bird woman from the ground. Rise, finch mother. When village bells chime midnight, swifts teach her to sleep on the wing amongst a murmuration of galaxies and stars.
Yeah, we've been a murmuration of galaxies and stars in this room tonight. Thank you all so much for coming and listening to us as we write the future into being. And these last poems, I hope, give you a taste of what that feels like to turn our attention to the world that we know can be the case. I'm going to close us out with one last poem. And I also want to take this moment to thank Dialect for taking the brave punt on this book. Thruto poetry is something that we've invented. There is no, there is no genre there already for Dialect Press to say, oh yes, this is going to be, this poetry is going to take off, this is going to be popular, people like this stuff. And so I think they bravely took a chance on this book. Yeah, I think that's the kind of faith we need. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, this is the future I want right here where I live on my street. In the heart of this city, no street trees. The glaring was hot. Neighbours had never gardened. Only weather gathers. Could we make a framework, run wooden posts along the street, hold up a ceiling of green, fat vine leaves, a spanning of grapes ripening over tarmac? Glistening, the ideas come, the young sweat themselves, muscled pickaxes and shovels, old men dust the walls. On Thursday they all come, break up the tarmac, bust out the soil, flood the street with water from open taps, open doors. Reluctant green sprouting everywhere. By Friday, our street is a cool weave. Hands past chunks of unwanted cars out. Glowing pits, cooking barbecue vegetables. Begonias and buddleia, hollering gateway translations, neighbours of the oldest language. A horseshoe is hung, glints. Dancing, we light, we drag our tired. We story the fire, feed the squash with sips of beer, and a bird bath splashes Saturday into all the sundown songs we've ever sung. And I tell you, and I am flagrant with it, our whole damn outrageous street gets up as one, shouldering myth and aching, and we are surging. Let it rain, let it rain, let it.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, lovely poets. It's one thing to, work with you on the text for this collection, this pamphlet, but to hear you read, it's the first time I've heard you read properly together, is just so joyous. Please, can everybody just unmute themselves for a moment and give them a round of applause? Yay! Woo! Well done. That was really, really wonderful. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Oh, gorgeous.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
It was wonderful.
Thank you. So we actually don't have that many copies of the books left. They have literally been
Hooray.
flying out of the bookshop. But if you would like to buy a book, if you'd like to buy We'll Meet You There, please just go and have a look on the Dialect website and see our bookshop. We also have a couple of other pamphlets there, Sardines by Vasiliki Albedo and Lucy Home, and Rock, Paper, Scissors by Ella Duffy and Adam Horowitz. We've got a couple of events coming up next month. On the 15th of April, Ilse is actually going to come and join us in Stroud at the Museum in the Park and do a reading from We'll Meet You There, alongside some other writers who've been writing in prose on another thrutopian project that we've been running called The Weight of Light. So if you're local, perhaps you'd like to pop into that. And we've also got an Indie Press Network salon on the 30th of April in Stroud too. Lots of workshops, courses, retreats, and all that. I'm not going to do my sales pitch, there's no need. But just to say, thank you so, so much for coming along and supporting it. And thanks above all to the poets for being so brave, I think, in putting this work out there. We're absolutely thrilled to be publishing this. And yeah, thank you again. Thanks so much, and good night, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
It can happen.
Yes.
Let's go.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. That was absolutely brilliant. And yes, Alice, of course it can happen, and it certainly will. What a great rallying cry.
Thank you so much, Dawn. Thank you.
Just